Danny, it being Danny Murphy, let's talk Liverpool. Trent Alexander Arnold, the defender, is unwanted by England, it would seem. So will Trent, the midfielder, see the door opened on the international scene at last? Is this what it's going to take for us to see him in an England shirt more often?
The reality is, for me, that while Gareth Southgate is manager, we won't see Trent play regularly in the big games for England, irrelevant of his adaptability in position. Now, are you asking me, is he capable of playing in midfield for England? I think, yeah, he could be. I think his repertoire of passing and creative skills from the midfield area is better than any other midfielder we have.
I was going to say, is he better than what they've got in midfield?
He is more creative than anyone else we have.
Whose place would he take?
Well, as you're talking, I'm looking at the way we set up in the World Cup. He generally likes legs. When you think of Declan Rice, you think of Jude Bellingham. Mm-hmm. You think of whoever he's played Mason in there.
Can't have Mason out. He's your surrogate son, for God's sakes.
Yeah, that's true. It's true.
Okay, but you're saying no, in midfield there is a definite place for Trent in an England shirt.
Well, if you look, the majority of England games they play, they dominate the ball comfortably. So he could play in there now against them, 75% of the opposition England play against. The problem you've got is when you play against France, when you play against Argentina and Brazil, I don't think Gareth would trust him defensively to play central midfield.
And is that because you're starting this conversation with this, irrespective of what Trent Alexander Arnold does, right? You've got this preordained perspective that Gareth Southgate's not going to deal with it or not have him, right? As a right back, well, I can understand that. So that's an argument. So that bias is not extended to anything beyond the fact that he can't defend, right? So then you move into the other territory, which is all of a sudden he changes to a midfield player and he's playing for Liverpool and he's ripping it. Why would Gareth Southgate, by your logic, turn a blind eye to that?
I don't think he'd turn a blind eye to it. I didn't say he'd never play him. I don't think he'd play him.
Kind of alluded to that.
No, that's not what I meant. If you assume that, then I must have worded it incorrectly. But my point is that I think, yeah, he'd be happy to put him in a qualifier against Liechtenstein or whoever it may be.
There you go.
So you move him. So that's.
Yeah.
So
you
wouldn't play him against bigger sides.
I don't think he'll play him against the best teams in Europe and in the world in the big tournaments in midfield because he doesn't trust him defensively.
Is he capable of morphing into adapting some of the defensive capabilities that were required from a central midfield player that are slightly different to those required of a fullback? Will he be able to bridge that gap as a player, do you think?
Yes.
So then, again, I'll ask you again. If he bridges that gap and illustrates that he can bridge that gap and adapts his game to be slightly more defensive-minded as a midfield player with offensive aspirations being his primary focus, then he would be part of Southgate, wouldn't he? Southgate would then trust him.
A lot of ifs and buts there. So you mean if he plays a prolonged season in the Liverpool team in midfield against teams like Manchester City, against teams like Arsenal...
But he's going to have to, isn't he?
Why is he?
Well, if he's going to play centre midfield,
we don't know
position,
he is.
Well, if this is okay, then the conversation's redundant, isn't it?
A lot of them are on this show.
Yeah, well, the ones that you feature in, yeah.
Actually, they're not redundant; they're hypothetical.
Yeah.
So let's change the wording.
But he's playing in midfield for Liverpool now. So there's a school of thought which suggests that maybe
he's playing an inverted fullback. He's not starting in midfield with a fullback.
Do you think he's going to end up in midfield?
I don't know. I don't know what Jurgen's plan is. I don't know. I think he'll leave.
Did you not always tell us he was always a midfielder?
I always believed he could play there.
Yeah.
Didn't he start as that?
Yeah, I think so.
So he's a midfielder then?
Well, what did you start life as?
A child.
Does that mean you still are?
A child.
Does that mean you still are?
Well, yeah, clearly, because I can relate to you at times.
Well, what ridiculous logic.
This is like the gloves are off with these two, isn't it? Danny, it's 6 wins on the bounce now for Liverpool. Top 4, is it on? Are they arriving a bit late?
I think it's a bit late, only because I've seen the fixtures. Man U have got 3 home games remaining out the last 4 against opposition you expect them to beat. Now, I know they haven't been playing great, but United have lost at home once this season. I think they'll get over the line. I also think, although Liverpool, it's been a good recovery, I think they've still got one bad game in them, maybe. We've seen that before.
Yeah.
They do let you down now and again, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But it has been better. Newcastle only need 7 out of the last 4. They need 7 points out of the last 4. That's 2 wins and a draw. And there's no reason, if you look at the opposition they've got, to think they won't do that the way they've been playing.
How do you sum up the season? Because you can sum it up now, can't you? They're not in the FA Cup
Hugely
final. They went in the Carabao Cup final.
Hugely
They're
disappointed.
out the Champions League. On and on.
Failure, isn't it? Disappointment. Yeah. Failure, whatever word you want to use, would be true. The team that was close to doing a quadruple, 2 games away from doing a quadruple last year, has it's looking like 1-0 and not gotten a Champions League. that can only be classed as one thing.
Yeah. Are they back next season with a vengeance?
I think they'll be back. Yeah, I'm not suggesting they'll overtake Man City, but I think they'll be back competing again.
There's quite a few in that category, aren't there? His watch for Chelsea type warning. They'll have to come back with something.
I think next year you'll see Arsenal maintain the level.
Yeah.
City will go again. Liverpool will be back, and United will be pushing Chelsea for fourth.
Don't forget Newcastle. That proved costly for him.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.